Hello to my 3 listeners. Thank you so much for coming back to another episode. This is gonna be a fun one. I'm not gonna lie, though, it's going to be deep, and I am going to probably make you cry. Today, we are going to talk about all things sober curious. But before we dive in, I need to make something crystal clear. I am not a doctor, therapist, or addiction specialist. I am just simply someone who retired early. If you're physically dependent on alcohol, stopping suddenly can be dangerous or even fatal, so please consult a healthcare professional before making significant changes to your drinking habits. This episode is meant to be informative and thought-provoking, not a replacement for proper medical care. Also, my journey is mine alone. Yours will look different, and that's perfectly okay. I am going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off now. Let's get it over with, shall we? I'm going to make you cry. At least I've been told that this can sometimes make your eyes leak a little bit. I'm sorry for that. You can handle it. You got this. I'm going to read a poem that comes from my first book, Garden of Blue. It is a memoir. It is about chronic illness and grief, mental health, trauma. This poem comes from the chapter called Daddy's Girl. It is called Sunday's Best. Maple syrup on the dining room table adheres to my skin, reminding me of Sunday's breakfast. The sun was pouring through the window, illuminating the dust in the air as it slowly floats. My dad was big and tall, like a lumberjack. He flipped pancakes while singing along to Led Zeppelin. His smile was as warm as the butter melting on the plate he made for us. This glimpse was like a family portrait on the wall. It's Sunday's best, like what you see during a church service. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Those days were not the same. Those days were darker, and they were not mundane. His smile faded as he wiped the liquor off his mustache, swaying as his eyes showed someone else's soul. Our bellies were not full from a happy family dinner, but a deep, aching pit of fear. My legs would shake, and my heart would race, wondering how the night would end. Who would get hurt? I would hide in my closet, picking glitter and Barbie shoes out of the corner as I heard screaming. Something would break. After the night became quiet and we all slept till morning, we would wake up to Sunday's best version of him. He remembered nothing as he kissed my forehead and went to work. I always remembered everything he didn't. In the end, it was my turn to kiss his forehead. And for the last time. His skin was cold and yellow. And just before he took his last breath, I told him I would only remember Sunday's best. Well, I hope I didn't make you cry too much, but if it makes you feel any better, I'm crying too. Because I recorded an entire episode. It was almost 40 minutes. And it didn't save. It stopped up until this point. So I'm starting over and I'm pissed. And keep in mind, I spent like an hour trying to troubleshoot and see if I could somehow get that file. And here we are doing it all over again. I will say one of your most important tools in your tool belt is discipline. And this is a great example of that. I'm furious. I should just be like, fuck this. I don't want to do this again. And I could do it a few days from now, but fuck it. This is where discipline comes in. I'm redoing it. Sorry, I'll stop complaining. I'll start with my journey of quitting alcohol. I will say it didn't just happen once. I tried and I quit so many times. Sometimes I would go weeks or months. I think I even went a whole year. A few times I definitely went 6 months or so. But a celebration or a birthday or something would come up, and I would drink again and start all over. One of the many times I quit drinking, I remember standing in front of a mirror, and I was either in a bikini or my bra, whatever. I remember looking at myself and thinking, who is this bitch? Like, I gained a lot of weight. I was not happy with my body. Life was just this shit show. I didn't feel happy, and something had to change. While I didn't totally have a successful cessation of drinking alcohol at that point, I did quit for a little bit. The main point in that moment was that I started to shift my perspective, and that was huge. I lived in that victim mentality mindset, and I was living in constant fear. I was stressing out as a single mom, like, how am I going to pay my fucking water bill? I didn't get any help or child support or anything like that, so it was me, and I was struggling. It was a lot of pressure. I couldn't sleep. I just worried all the time. I'd be up till 3 in the morning just worrying about every day, trying to get through day by day and pay my bills and have this happy, beautiful life. When my kids were not home and they were at their dad's house, I hated being home alone. It was hauntingly quiet in the house. Like, I could hear any sound and it would freak me out. I couldn't stand being in the house by myself and being alone. It was difficult. So I lived right outside of this cute little town, and I could just walk across the street and go and get dinner, or I would work my ass off until it was time to eat, and then I would order a drink. Well, I am my father's daughter, so when I drank, I could drink. I could fucking drink like my father. Depression does not mix well with that. So by the time I finally did quit drinking, I was only drinking maybe a glass of wine or a beer here and there. I wasn't drinking liquor. I wouldn't even usually have a second drink. It was already starting to dissolve out of my life until one night I decided to have that second glass of wine, and it fucked me up. I had the worst hangover. It was a 2-day hangover, and my health was already kind of shitty. I finally got to the point where I was like, look, it's hardly in my life as it is. I'm done. I think I've reached my moment, and there it was. That was 8 years ago. Now, here's something to keep in mind if you decide to pursue an alcohol-free life. You are going to have to replace it with a lot of different things. Keep in mind, for many people, alcohol is a coping mechanism. It is a tool for coping. It is a way to avoid or numb pain. So if you're removing that, it needs to be replaced with something, whether it is going to see a therapist or some kind of healing work that you do. For some, it might be a social thing. If you're removing alcohol and that's your only social thing, what are you going to do? You're going to have to find new friends, because you know that whole saying, you can't heal in the environment that makes you sick. Well, this is a beautiful example of that. If all of your friends are drunks and you're trying to get out of that environment, you're going to have to get new friends. So it's going to be a little lonely, and you're going to need to replace your old social activities with some new ones that more align with the path that you are trying to take. For some people, alcohol is an activity, it's something to do. If that's the case, you're going to need to replace that as well. You're going to need some hobbies, find some other activities, because you're going to have missing pieces. And in order to be successful, you need to have new plans. For example, having a nighttime ritual is something we do, whether you think about it or not. We all have our nighttime ritual, whether it's taking your magnesium supplement, having some warm tea, putting a TV show on like The Office on repeat for the last 5 years, or journaling or maybe meditating or whatever. That is part of the ritual. Well, if your ritual includes drinking alcohol, again, you're going to need to replace that. I remember posting on Facebook saying, "Hey, I am not drinking alcohol anymore. I would love to connect with friends and do activities that don't involve alcohol." Nobody gave any fucks. No fucks were given. I want to say, like, there were dozens of people saying they were down, but were not because they were hungover and they were still sleeping at noon and so on. They never really were up for it. And I remember going to an airboat ride because I live in Florida. It was a hot, sunny, beautiful day. I wanted to see some fucking alligators, maybe eat some alligator after, and go have a fun day. I thought, why not? It was slow season. Nobody else was there. They had some rule that they would not go out if it were only one person. It had to be two people or more. So I got turned away. I remember being so sad that I was just kind of on this journey by myself. I've never been one to not want to go somewhere by myself. In fact, it's how I recharge. It's how I decompress. I really love alone time. I love me time. I need it. I fucking need it or I'll go crazy. While that was not an issue for me, this may be an issue for you. You may experience some loneliness and some isolation while you are working this shit out. You're on a new path. You are on a new journey. Not everyone is going with you, and that is the reality. If you are somebody who needs people and support, figure out who those people are going to be, or maybe challenge yourself to go on adventures by yourself or try new hobbies that you wouldn't normally try. This is a really perfect opportunity for that, to get to know yourself. It's actually kind of fun. One of my favorite perks for not drinking is to actually remember your fucking night. I say this because I don't know how many times I've gone to concerts or on trips, and sometimes you see somebody at the concert who had too many drinks and you know they're blacked out. They're not going to remember that shit. It makes me think. People will spend hundreds of dollars for concert tickets or thousands of dollars for a vacation or a fun night out, and just to not remember any of it. I just don't understand. Like, save your fucking money. All right, enough about me. Let's go into the science behind alcohol's effects. We're going to start with the neurological impacts. Alcohol affects your brain's dopamine system in a particularly deceptive way. When you drink, alcohol triggers an artificial flood of dopamine, your brain's primary reward neurotransmitter. This creates that initial feeling of pleasure and excitement. However, your brain compensates for these repeated artificial spikes by down-regulating dopamine receptors over time, essentially making them less sensitive. This means you gradually need more alcohol to feel the same pleasure, and worse, everyday activities that should bring joy, such as eating food or spending time with friends, become less rewarding without alcohol. Alcohol also fucks with your GABA receptors. This is why you feel relaxed initially, but then here's the catch. Your brain adapts to this artificial enhancement by reducing its sensitivity to GABA and increasing excitatory glutamate activity. This creates a dependency cycle where you need alcohol to feel normal relaxation, and without it, your brain becomes hyper-excitable, leading to anxiety, irritability, and severe cases, withdrawal symptoms like tremors or seizures. Fuck that. The myth of alcohol as a relaxant comes from confusing short-term effects with overall impact. While alcohol initially reduces anxiety by enhancing GABA, the rebound effect as it leaves your system often creates greater anxiety than what you started with. Studies show that regular drinkers actually experience higher baseline anxiety than non-drinkers because of these neurological adaptations. All right, now we're going to discuss physical health impacts. When you stop drinking, your liver begins a remarkable recovery process. The liver is our primary detoxification organ and can regenerate itself when given the chance, which is pretty fucking cool. Within just 3 to 4 weeks of sobriety, many people show significantly improved liver enzyme levels. That's awesome. After 6 to 12 months without alcohol, even those with early stage fatty liver disease, that's the first stage of alcohol-related liver damage, they often see complete resolution on imaging studies, which is fucking cool as fuck. You know how I feel about sleep already, I'm sure. Sleep quality improvements are among the most noticeable benefits of quitting alcohol. Here's the thing. While alcohol might help you fall asleep faster, it severely disrupts your sleep architecture, particularly REM sleep. That's the phase that's responsible for cognitive processing, emotional regulation, and memory consolidation. Studies using polysomnography, which is sleep monitoring, show that alcohol reduces REM sleep by 13 to 24% in moderate drinkers. Holy shit, we need our sleep. After quitting, most people see their REM sleep normalize within 2 to 3 weeks, leading to more restorative sleep, better dream recall, and improved daytime alertness. Cardiovascularly, even moderate alcohol consumption increases blood pressure and can lead to arrhythmias such as AFib. Within 3 to 4 weeks of abstinence, systolic blood pressure lowers. So if you have hypertension, quit fucking drinking. Let's talk about the mental health connections. The alcohol anxiety feedback loop works like this. You drink to relieve anxiety, but the alcohol wears off. You experience rebound anxiety that's often worse than your baseline. This happens because alcohol suppresses your central nervous system, and when it withdraws, your system overcompensates. Neuroimaging studies show increased activity in the amygdala, which is your brain's fear center, during alcohol withdrawal, even in social drinkers. Over time, this creates a vicious cycle where you need alcohol to manage anxiety that alcohol itself is worsening. Regarding depression, alcohol is literally classified as a CNS depressant. It reduces activity in your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation, while initially boosting feel-good neurotransmitters. As those artificially boosted neurochemicals drop, they often fall below your baseline, creating a neurochemical low that manifests as depression symptoms. There was a meta-analysis of 35 studies found that drinking heavily increases the risk of depression by up to 40%. And reducing alcohol consumption significantly improves depression scores without other interventions. Think about it. It took me years to slowly just decide alcohol was not for me. That might not be the case for everybody, so let's discuss some resources for those who need more support. We're going to start with signs professional help may be needed. Physical dependent symptoms include morning shakes that improve with alcohol, sweating, elevated heart rate at rest, insomnia despite exhaustion, and nausea, vomiting when not drinking. If someone experiences these, it indicates their body has adapted to alcohol's presence, and medical supervision for cessation is strongly recommended. Withdrawal dangers progress on a spectrum from uncomfortable to life-threatening. Early withdrawals can be anywhere from 6 to 12 hours after the last drink. Typically involves anxiety, insomnia, and nausea. At 24 to 48 hours, some people progress to more serious symptoms like elevated blood pressure, confusion, and fever. Medical supervision is essential for anyone with a history of heavy daily drinking. That's 5+ daily drinks for weeks or months. Previous withdrawal experiences or coexisting health conditions or advanced age. One really cool thing about the internet is that you can join groups online from home and you don't have to have your camera on. You can be really anonymous. In fact, I had to get a couple extra hours for my psych class for clinical, and I decided to do an Alcoholics Anonymous online, and it was Al-Anon to be specific. I had heard a lot about Al-Anon, which is for the family of the alcoholics. I've always wanted to check it out, but I just never have. Probably never would, but hey, I needed a couple hours for class. This is a fucking win, if you ask me. Honestly, it was really cool and touching and fucking healing too, because these people understood a part of me that not many people understand. And it really helps you to feel that you're not alone. And it also makes you learn a lot about yourself and why you are who you are because of your experience. They believe that alcohol is a disease for the family. Anyway, I could just join anytime I wanted, and that was really cool. I will have all of these notes and a link in my blog for this episode. Something that has been incredibly helpful for me is learning how to romanticize my life and celebrate everything because I don't do well with complacency. I don't do well at any stopping point. Like I am go, 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 go. I have a lot of trauma and that's just ingrained in me to stay busy. You know, that's why I have a podcast and I've got my second book coming out while I'm in nursing school. Like, are you kidding me? And I'm working. So yeah, I stay busy. That is my coping mechanism. But I've learned to recognize that and, you know, I try to keep it on a healthy level. So I've probably said this a few times before, but I've always struggled with depression. I have severe major depressive disorder. Woo! It is so fun. I'm just kidding. I'll do an episode eventually on mental health. If you really think about it, mental health ties into the foundation of all of this shit. With depression, I don't have alcohol in my life to drown away the darkness. Oh boy. So now I am that type of person that does romanticize my life. The other day, I had the day off. Oh, I decided, fuck it, I'm going to go to the beach because I live in Florida. And another thing that I have in my toolkit is gratitude, appreciating life as we have it now in this moment. I live near the fucking beach. Not a lot of people get to say that. People come here for their vacations. For a long time, I didn't really give a fuck about that. So now I do. I want to take advantage of that, and I do often. I decided I am going to have lunch at the beach. I throw my swimsuit on, hop in my truck. I keep a blanket and an adventure bag in my truck at all times. I am always prepared. There's a swimsuit in there, change of clothes in case I want to go on a run, whatever. I also have measuring tape, my dad's knife, earmuffs, and goggles in case I want to go shooting. You know, like I'm ready for a good time. Next, I go to Chipotle and get myself those salty ass chips with some guac and queso and salsa. And that is my girl lunch. I know that's terrible, but I also got some chocolate peanut butter cups, the Justin's dark chocolate kind, which I know is kind of a terrible idea to bring to a Florida sunny beach, but I was not fucking around. I was going to eat that first thing. I also brought some sparkling water because I was too lazy to fill my cup of water. I get to the beach, I put my blanket out, I have my little picnic, I'm listening to Theo Von's solo episode, laughing my ass off, eating my chocolate and my salty ass chips, and it was amazing. It's just so beautiful. And I know it sounds silly and people probably look at me like, what the hell? But I don't care. And how lucky am I that I get to do that? I hang out for like an hour, I tan my fucking cheeks and head home and work on the shit that I need to work on and clean my house or study. What a fucking great day. I try to find ways to celebrate life or appreciate life or find the beauty in it. And I think it's important that you do that too. Like, what are things that make you happy? Who cares if you look silly and you're eating fucking Chipotle or Chick-fil-A on the beach, as long as you don't litter. Let's talk about navigating social situations while you are not drinking. That can be really tough, especially during the holidays when people are busting out the champagne or someone wants to buy you a shot. This gets tricky. I used to be a bartender at one point in my life, and that was really difficult to not drink during those times. Everybody wanted to buy me a shot or get me a drink because my hand was empty, and it was a lot of pressure. If you don't have good boundaries, that might be really tough. I even had this one bitch. I say bitch because I'm sorry. We're not friends anymore after this. But she came up to me and was like, Misty, you were so much fun when you drank. And I would do anything to just have you drunk for one night, like the old Misty, because you were just so much fun back then. It is tough to hear that, like, I'm not cool anymore, but people want to hold you back with them. If they don't want to fix their shit, they want, misery loves company. You're going to need new friends. One of the ways I was able to keep people off my back when I was going into social situations was to have a mocktail. And 8+ years ago, when I was on and off trying to quit, mocktails were not really a thing. I would get a soda water with a splash crayon and a lime, and people just thought I had a drink. It was cool with me. I didn't want to deal with it. Again, find your sober community because it significantly increases your success rates. Studies show that people with sober social connections maintain abstinence at rates of 50% or higher than those attempting sobriety while maintaining primarily drinking-focused friendships. We are going to switch it up for a moment, and I'm going to read a little piece from my book, Garden of Blue. This is from the chapter called Booze Blues. Growing up watching Disney movies, I always dreamt of the fairy tale. I dreamt that one day someone would swoop me up on their horse and take me far away to some beautiful life. I would start over and have fields of flowers to lie in as my worryless mind focused on the blueness of the sky and the warmth of the sun. What I learned is that we are all knights in shining armor, but in our own lives. For ourselves. The first step to healing is acknowledging what is broken in the first place so that you can plan the route to repair. In this moment, you can finally be awake with a shifted perspective and a new awareness of yourself. Let's discuss alcohol consumption. The CDC guidelines define moderate drinking for women is 1 drink daily, while for men, it is 2 drinks daily. This is based on metabolic differences between the typical male and female bodies. Studies show that when people pour their own drinks, they are typically serving 1.5 to 2.5 times the standard amount while considering it 1 drink, which that's true. Okay, that's true. I know it's true. People love a bartender with a heavy hand where they can say, oh no, I only had 1 or 2 drinks, and really the shot glass was filled to the top. Which now that I see that as a sober person, I have a whole different perspective on that. World Health Organization. Their position on alcohol is that no level of alcohol consumption is safe for health. That means no booze for you. The World Health Organization specifically notes that alcohol is causally linked to over 200 disease and injury conditions, including 7 types of cancer, and is responsible for approximately 3 million deaths annually worldwide. Let's talk about fucking up, shall we? The failed experiment is your greatest catalyst. So you fucked up. Welcome to the universal laboratory where all of us test tube humans occasionally bubble over and make a mess. That feeling of failure isn't the end of your experiment. It's just data. When you think you failed yourself, understand what's actually happening at the molecular level. Your atoms are vibrating with potential energy. The sensation you call failure is merely friction between who you were and who you are becoming. In nature, pressure creates diamonds. In the cosmos, collapsing stars forge every heavy element in existence. Your perceived failure is just your personal supernova. Chaotic, perhaps catastrophic, but cosmically necessary. Let's be brutally honest. Nobody gives a shit about your failure except for you. The universe certainly doesn't care. It's been exploding, imploding, and refiguring matter for 13.8 billion years without stopping to worry about whether it's doing a good job. The planets don't apologize for their orbits. Gravity doesn't second guess its pull. This is where your rebellion begins. Against what? Against the absurd notion that you should be perfect in an inherently chaotic universe. Against the cultural programming that mistakes and failures are endpoints rather than catalysts. Consider the chemistry. Ethanol, our favorite little molecule for temporarily escaping discomfort, isn't inherently good or bad. It's just a compound that produces predictable effects. Your failure works the same way. It's a compound experience creating a predictable effect, the opportunity for transformation. But this feels like shit, you say. Precisely, that is the point. If evolution had made failure feel fantastic, we'd still be single-celled organisms, failing gloriously with no incentive to adapt. So take that bitter tincture of disappointment and recognize it for what it really is, not punishment, but information. The most potent botanical in your mental apothecary isn't some rare flower or exotic root. It's the weed of failure that keeps sprouting despite your best efforts to kill it. Here's the cosmic joke. The universe doesn't distinguish between moving forward caused by success or failure. Movement is movement. Energy is energy. The laws of thermodynamics don't have a moral stance on how you generate your momentum. So here is the cool part. You are a conscious collection of stardust temporarily arranged into human form, capable of observing your own mistakes and recalibrating. That's not failure. That's the most successful adaptation mechanism in the known universe. So use that as rocket fuel, not because some spiritual guru said so, but because chemically and cosmically speaking, it's the most efficient propellant you've got. The alternative is entropy, and entropy always wins in the end. But not today, not on your fucking watch. Now get up, you magnificent disaster. The laboratory awaits new experiments.